Don't you love it when you have a project all set out and ready to go in your mind? Then you sit down to actually put it to practice, and it suddenly takes on a life of its own and turns into something completely different without your having the faintest idea how you got from point A to point B? Well, that's what just happened. I sat down to write this script. I had its thesis plotted out all nice and neatly in my head. But then I actually started typing, and the more I wound my brain around the words, the more I started to realize I'd make a huge mistake in my reasoning. So welcome to my second total revisal of this script, literally rewriting the whole thing from scratch with the polar opposite thesis. My original title was going to be The Lion King's not as pro-masculinity as people think, with my argument being predicated on how, when Simba does go back to challenge Scar, the lionesses, including his best friend and his own mother, all just eat up Scar's story about how Simba murdered Mufasa as a cub, and had Scar not gotten cocky at the last possible instant, they would have simply stood there and let him get thrown off a cliff. Based on this, I'd then planned to express how Simba, by all sense and reason, had no responsibility to go back and should instead have stayed where he was with Timon and Pumbaa. But though I still stand by the core of the point I was making, it occurred to me as I was replaying the scenes leading up to Simba's return that it wasn't Nala's moralizing that stirred him to action. Yes, she opened the door, but something else, something far more powerful and important, had to actually push him through. And that something was when Mufasa showed up and said,
"You have forgotten who you are, and so forgotten me. Look inside yourself, Simba. You are more than what you have become. You must take your place in the circle of life.
How can I go back? I'm not who I used to be."
Remember who you are. You are my son, and the one true king. Remember who you are.
No! Please! Don't leave me!
Remember.
Father!
Remember.
Don't leave me.
Notice how Mufasa's not actually guilt-tripping Simba here. He's not telling him, you need to man up and do your duty to our kingdom, or whatever the lion equivalent of that is. No, he's talking to Simba as a father, not as a king. He's telling his son he's not living up to his potential. He's making it about Simba, not about himself, his kingdom, or his legacy. And here's where I was wrong the first time. Simba doesn't go back out of a sense of obligation to a kingdom he believes turned its back on him. Remember, he doesn't know Scar killed Mufasa yet. He goes back because it's his home, it's his family, his legacy. It's because he's the king of the Pride Lands, and with authority comes responsibility, and vice versa. Which is where I think traditional conservatives in real life seriously screw up their messaging towards young men. Sure, they'll drone on and on ad nauseum about how men need to take responsibility for themselves and their lives, which is 100% true. But the part they conspicuously omit is that a man must also take absolute authority over his life if he is to be held justly responsible, as responsibility without authority is slavery, just as authority without responsibility is tyranny. Right then, well, that little hiccup actually trimmed what had been a 4-page script down into one. Cool. Anyway, you all know the whole YouTuber outro shtick by now, so without any ado, until next time, stay safe, stay sane, and may the great kings always be there to guide you. Uhambo Olu no Kuthula.